Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the latest in the Lincoln Project series of town halls. This spotlight tonight is on the state of Nevada. There's a lot going on out there in Nevada, and we thought it was really important, particularly since we have so many folks with our union that have joined and are volunteered in our partner groups that are involved out there on the ground. And it's a really critical Senate race. We have some people that we cannot allow to get elected statewide down ballot, particularly the Secretary of State race there, the governor's race. There's a lot going on. So we wanted to make sure that we put a spotlight on what's happening there in Nevada for people, particularly if you live there, or if you have relatives who live there, and make sure people are paying attention to it. The Rick Wilson will be joining momentarily. He will be my partner here in this. But in the meantime, I'd like to bring in our partner organizations who we're working with there on the ground in Nevada while we wait on Rick to join the conversation in a few minutes. First up, we have Laura Martin from Progressive Alliance of Nevada. She's with us, Plan Action Fund. Do we have Laura? There she is.
Oh, here I am.
Hello, welcome to our town hall tonight. And we also have Annette Magnus with us from Battleground Progress. Oh, that's not Annette, that's Rick Wilson. Hi, Rick. There's Annette.
No, I don't have Annette's inherent grace and beauty, so I am just here being that guy.
Or her hair.
No, grace.
I think the bald head was the dead giveaway on that one. All right. Well, we're all here together. This is great. And earlier tonight, we were on The Breakdown, the show that Rick and I host together, and talking a little bit about Nevada, but we wanted to get into the nuts and bolts of it since we had the two of you who are on the ground, who are the activists that have the grassroots organizations that are there making a difference in Nevada, to kind of talk to our audience a bit about what's happening there. So, Laura, I will start with you first. What are you guys focusing on right now? What do you see going on on the ground in Nevada?
Happening right now in Nevada is early voting. Early voting is a big ritual for us in Nevada. The majority of voters will vote early, and we like to have parties at the polls. And so we'll have mariachi, we'll have tacos, we'll launch canvases from the polling locations, but we really want people to drop off those ballots. And if you're in Las Vegas on the 4th, we will have a petting zoo at the polling location in Walnut Recreation Center. We'll have mariachi because we want to make sure people know voting is something that we do. It's fun. It's not like paying your taxes, something we have to do. It's something that, we're called to do to make sure that we have a voice in deciding what the future of our community looks like.
That's great. Rick, obviously, we know that that's not the state of Georgia, since you can't even give out water online anymore. Never mind everything that's going on out there in Nevada. Good for you guys while you can still do it. I think it's important for people to understand that if someone like Laxalt or Jim Marchant wins their elections, those things might go away. You may not have the same access that you have as a voter currently right now in Nevada, since they're election deniers. Annette, what are you guys focusing on? Which race do you feel is most important? Is it all of them? Is there one in particular that you guys feel is most important? Where do you guys stand?
Yeah, it's all of the above. From the top of the ticket on down to school board and the ballot questions at the bottom of the ballot. We need people voting all the way down the ticket this year, including judges, including those lower ballot races, because in my opinion, those are sometimes even more important than the top of the ticket races. We need folks in Nevada or who know folks in Nevada paying attention and, talking about all of the different issues that are happening. Yes, Adam Laxalt is incredibly dangerous. So is Joe Lombardo, who's running for governor. So is Jim Marchant, who's running for Secretary of State. Michelle Fiore is a complete whack job. It has been for a really, really long time. And Andy Matthews ran the Nevada Policy Research Institute, which is a Koch brother funded organization. I mean, from the top of the ticket on down, we have what we call the freak show on our ballot. And so we need to be paying attention, and Nevadans need to wake up and they need to fill out their ballots and either return them by mail or show up and vote.
Rick, it's a freak show, but not the good kind, like on the Las Vegas Strip. Go.
Yeah, I mean, Nevada has a high degree of, the compression of the crazy has happened out there. I mean, Marchant in particular, stands out in my mind just because, he's one of these overtly QAnon folks who's going to say, I'll use my position as a Secretary of State to overturn elections I don't like, just out of preference. And it should scare the hell out of people, and it should raise the stakes on why it's so important to get out there and vote this cycle.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is exactly right. We have people like Jim Marchant or Sigal Chattah, who's running for Attorney General, who said our current Attorney General, who's the first Black Attorney General, should be hanged. Those
Seems
people.
nice.
Yeah. So those folks have all but guaranteed, if they are elected, our next election in Nevada will not be free and it will not be fair. They've all but promised that Trump will win regardless. And I'm glad you've called out Jim Marchant, because he will cry and say that elections are stolen when he doesn't win. He's a perennial candidate. But the one time he did, he won his primary, but he didn't challenge that election. And so it's just straight up hypocrisy.
Right.
Not to mention also that he's an Oath Keeper sympathizer on top of that, which should alarm people who claim to be law and order. These are people who do not believe in the current laws. They want to, engage in extrajudicial means to enforce the laws that they want and what they want. Oath Keepers led the January 6th insurrection. A bunch of them are on trial right now for seditious conspiracy, which is a very serious charge. And you have a candidate in the Secretary of State out there who has no problem with that whatsoever. I would think that folks in Nevada, forgive me, I've already prepped people for this. I'm from Jersey, we say Nevada, but I'm practicing. So forgive me, Nevadans. Go ahead, Annette.
I was just going to add, Marchant's not the only one who props up, January 6th sympathizers. Sure. Adam Laxalt hired them on his campaign. Let me remind the voters at home, Adam Laxalt in his younger days actually was accused of beating a police officer. So he wants to talk about being law and order, but he's the one out there beating cops. And in addition to that, he loves to say law and order, but is propping up people who helped plan and execute January 6th, where police officers actually died. So I don't want to hear these excuses about these people being law and order and all of this other nonsense when they are hypocrites, complete hypocrites. And they're the ones out there promoting, this nonsense about elections being stolen if they don't win. Adam Laxalt's another perennial candidate who can't win on his own, so he has to cheat to win. And so I'm just tired of it. I'm sick of hearing it. I was born and raised in Nevada. Unlike Adam Laxalt, I'm actually from here. And, that's not how we do things in Nevada. We are an incredibly libertarian state where we just want people to stay out of our business. We don't want people getting involved in our most personal decisions. And
Sure.
The thought of having Adam Laxalt represent me in the Senate is absolutely repulsive.
He's a genuinely not good dude. There's not a lot. And I actually was talking to a Republican who's still in the Republican matrix the other day, and we were bantering back and forth a little bit. And he said, the one guy I don't want to see win is Adam DeConcini, which is what Adam Laxalt's real name is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, he's just a bad guy. And it's true. He is a very dark guy. And I think I think he will comprise. Look, there's a part of Mitch McConnell. He desperately wants the majority back, but there's a part of Mitch McConnell that was not all hot and bothered on Adam Laxalt either. They were looking for other options in the beginning of this campaign. So I think he catalyzes a lot of voters out there insofar as he's just he's a negative figure.
Yeah, totally. And I think there is a really good ad calling out, as many times as he said on record, on video and on radio stations, he doesn't want to compromise and he doesn't want to reach across the aisle. Nevada is a very libertarian state. Catherine Cortez Masto has done her due diligence in trying to work with everybody to a common goal. And I think that's also in the spirit of Harry Reid. That's why he was so affected. And while he had Republicans for Harry Reid, there's Republicans for Catherine Cortez Masto. There's also 14 members of the Laxalt family who are endorsing her and telling people that, not explicitly, but basically saying, don't vote for Adam because who knows him better than his own family.
I think that's tremendously important. And Tara and I were talking about this on our previous show, just how much that means if your family comes out and says, and not just a couple,
right? Not just
I
one.
mean, Paul Gosar only had like 7. Adam's got like twice that many,
right?
But I do think it reminds me very clearly that the way people read character is how your family looks at you, and they're reading this guy and being very honest about it, about who he is and what he is.
And let me remind you, this isn't the first time they came out against him. They came out against him in the 2018 governor's race too, and said he wasn't qualified for that either. So it's not like this is a one-time thing and suddenly they're like, oh, well, Adam's a crackpot, we shouldn't get behind him. No, they came out against him in 2018 before he was a January 6th election denier and said he was dangerous in that race too. Mm-hmm. He does not belong in elected office, period, end of story.
One of the things that was one of the strangest, most surreal and great experiences I had in 2020 is one day a bunch of us got on the phone with Harry Reid. And all of us are like these guys who had been across the aisle fighting with him, for 20, 30 years. Stuart and I for 30 years going up against Harry's candidates. And it was one of the greatest conversations politically because he was up there and he wasn't going to be with us much longer. But man, he still knew the terrain. He knew the people. He had insight like you could not believe. I mean, what a damn operator. And it's a shame he is not still around because I think he would find a lot of joy in this race because he liked to get out there and brawl with people.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say that he is still around. I think one of the best things that Harry Reid did was invest in young talent. When he was a U.S. Senator, he had a really robust internship program. And, that started in high schools. And now a lot of those folks are running agencies here in Nevada. They're working in Congress in D.C. They're running for office now. They're running campaigns now. And so, the Reid machine is alive and well. And I think what you're mentioning, Rick, is the power of Harry Reid. He could see the whole picture. He was not trying to build his own little Harry Reid empire. He was building a movement. He could see the future and decide, what was the best way for folks to be successful. He knew that was in developing leaders and to really changing the face of Nevada's electorate. And that's why the Latino vote is so strong. Black vote is so strong. The pro-choice vote is so strong in the state because of Harry Reid.
And I'll also add to that, he invested in a lot of young women. Mm-hmm. The Nevada infrastructure is run by strong women. 2 of us are on the call. And Laura and I we call ourselves the aunties of the movement now because we've been here for so damn long. But, we joke about that, but that's a very real thing. And it's something I'm very proud of to be involved in Nevada because it is true. There are strong women who lead in Nevada. And that's because Senator Reid believed in female leadership, which is awesome.
That's always encouraging, I think, for people to hear, especially when, for Democratic constituencies that are minority and, women and sometimes feel like they're not being heard, particularly young people. And so I think it's important for people to know that infrastructure has been invested in, and you're seeing the fruits of that bear out now with your advocacy and what your groups do and who's on the ground there leading these grassroots efforts, because that's really where it starts. It's all about who can get the most people to the polls, who's motivated, who's running these things. And it's good to see that's where this is, the heart of this is coming from, that the old guys there and folks have been passing it down. And this is where it matters in times like this when races are so close. What are some of the areas where, for the Senate at least, that Cortez Masto is doing well? Because we're always talking about the negative, but where is she doing well?
I think just in her ability to, people know she's the first Latina. She's from Las Vegas. Her father was in the gambling industry, but just transcending that. She has support in the rural parts of the state. She has support from Republicans, independents, Democrats, the Black community, Latino community. She's, you can't win in Nevada without a multiracial coalition of folks, regardless of party affiliation. And she's done a good job of building up that coalition. And so I know that's something Adam Laxalt can't do. I mean, he doesn't have a Cortez Masto for Laxalt coalition, and I don't think he ever will.
I wonder why he can't get his own family to vote for him.
I mean, this is a man that doesn't know how to hold a taco. So, like, let's there's that piece.
Rick, who was it that ate pizza with a fork?
That was
that Kasich?
That was Kasich, I believe.
I think it was
yes.
Kasich. God bless him. I like John
We
Kasich.
literally have a picture of Adam Laxalt holding a taco like a stinky sock. And we were just like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're not even, clearly you're not even from here. So anyways.
He doesn't even go here.
Right.
We actually have memes about that in our office. He doesn't even go here. So.
That's so funny. I mean, listen, people, we laugh about that, but that stuff makes a difference. I mean, that's
especially in Nevada.
Yeah. I mean, people are very particular about their home state stuff. I'm from Jersey. I say it all the time. There's things that we are very particular about. Like, we don't call it the beach. It's called down the shore. So if someone is running for Senate in New Jersey is like, yeah, that's right. I spend the summer every summer at the beach. You're like, you're not from here. Nobody says that. So I get it. Those kinds of things make a difference.
Let's talk about that. He put out a tweet. I talked about this the last time I was on one of your shows, where he talked about going down and desalinizing water in Baja California, but he forgot that there was a whole country between Arizona and where you get that water. So he doesn't actually even know how maps work or the geography of the Southwest. So he probably shouldn't be running, for Senate in a state where he doesn't know the geography. Just my
right. Good.
The water's only a minor issue there anyway. I mean,
small thing.
Yeah. Right. just a tad important. And the federal government owns 75% of the land in Nevada. So it would, you'd think that you would know what's going on and want to know how those things operate. I have a couple audience questions for you guys. What happens if Adam Laxalt loses and refuses to concede? What happens then?
Well, I think we are part of a large coalition that is working on election protection. We are doing shifts currently at the elections department and observing the very amazing election process we have across Nevada. We're very proud of that process. He can decide not to concede all he wants, but at the end of the day, the ballots will be counted freely and fairly, like they always are in Nevada. We have a Republican Secretary of State, Barbara Sagafsky, who rejected soundly Donald Trump's insanity in 2020. And we believe she'll do that again because she runs a very good operation. Mm-hmm. And, I believe that the bigger counties will certify our election results and we will move on just like we've always done. And he can throw a temper tantrum all he wants when he loses, but at the end of the day, we're going to certify the results because we know that our election process is stellar in Nevada.
Right. That's one of the things that, as a guy who's done races all over the place, Nevada has a terrific election system. We
saw that in 2020.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a really top-notch, clean, efficient, organized, modern system.
Because they tried to pull some shenanigans in 2020 in Nevada, and that was one of the states.
I'm not saying it's not run by the lizard alien Illuminati overlords. Sorry.
Listen, if it is, I don't know.
It is. They're really efficient.
I mean, you do have Area 51 out there.
No,
who knows what's brewing out there?
I had a guy the other day send me this very serious email. You don't understand. The elections across this country are being run by a cabal out of Zurich, Switzerland, and they're all in league with the aliens. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
good.
Okay. Oh, he must be running for Secretary of State of Arizona or Nevada, because that's about that far off of what these crazies believe at this point, for goodness sakes.
What do the legislative races look like out there this season?
Yeah.
What's the split right now? What do you think? How do you think that looks this season?
Well, that'll be interesting because we did just have redistricting. So some districts have shifted. Currently, our Senate is, I think, a 1-vote majority, and then our House is a supermajority. So I'm not too worried about our House races, but the Senate, if Republicans are able to flip 2 more Senate seats, they gain the majority there. And the irony of Republicans denouncing mail-in ballots and early voting, when we had our first universal mail-in election, they did flip several legislative seats. And so it benefited them in a way, but we just have to keep working because we know that while candidates are throwing fits saying they won't, change Nevada's abortion laws because it's the rule of law. Roe v. Wade was the rule of law until it wasn't. And
Right.
so if we allow the Republicans to take majority of either house in Nevada, we're one step closer to undoing what the foremothers of our movement put into law to protect us, regardless of who controls the Supreme Court.
Right.
Speaking of that, I know there's some ballot initiatives out there this year. What are they, and what should people be paying attention to?
Yeah, we have 3 ballot questions that are really important to pay attention to. The first one is the Equal Rights Amendment, which we're supportive of, and we want people to vote yes. That's question 1. That will enshrine the Equal Rights Amendment locally on a state level in the Nevada Constitution, and it's more expansive than the federal Equal Rights Amendment. But it really will protect more people, and it's very important to have those protections enshrined in law, especially with everything that's been happening. The second one is a minimum wage ballot initiative. It doesn't raise the minimum wage. That's already happened with AB 345. This is something that Plan and us worked on very closely together, and it's to remove the 2-tiered minimum wage system in Nevada so that employers can't abuse it anymore. They were simply offering health insurance, but didn't have to pay for health insurance, didn't have to give good health insurance. And we're removing that because employers were able to pay $1 less than what the actual minimum wage was. So that's a really important one we want people to vote yes on. And then there's question 3, which unfortunately they're lying to voters about. They're saying it's just to open our primaries in Nevada, but it actually will put into the Constitution not only open primaries, but Final 5 voting and ranked choice voting. And they're leaving that last part out. And the fact of the matter is it's untested. We've never done something like that here before. And putting something like that in the Constitution is not necessary. It's dangerous because we don't know how voters will do with it. And so that's something we've been very vocal about in opposition to, especially because of who's behind it.
Right. I think it's more about that, because in some places like Alaska, I'll go back there again, they have a ranked choice voting system there that seems to be working pretty well for them. But they have a different culture up there when it comes to that kind of voting, as opposed to what Nevada has. And it feels to me like if it ain't broke, why fix it? Like you guys don't have a system that seems to be a problem for the most part. And you have to be careful about who's motivated to trying to upset that balance. We have another viewer question here. What messaging is most effective this cycle to reach voters who seem to be on the fence? That's from AB Nevada.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And I think we're forever testing and maneuvering however we need to adjust. But I think in the end, people want to feel aspirational. They don't want to be, threatened or doomed and gloomed and all of that. They want to know about what is possible and how much further we can go together. People did notice that during the pandemic, who was out there delivering groceries, who, like Annette, turned their garage into a food pantry, who was setting up free vaccine clinics, who was driving people to get their prescriptions. People noticed that CCM or Stephen Horsford, Aaron Ford, they were doing that. But Adam Laxalt, Jim Marchant, I don't know what they were doing, but not that. And so people know that things are not perfect. The rent is too high, gas is expensive, groceries are expensive. But the folks we talk to notice who's actually trying to help and who's just sitting on their hands. And they also notice, because we're telling them, who's also funded by the gas companies, by big oil, who's funded by all these people who got rich price gouging us during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's an economic populism argument I think Democrats in a lot of states have been slow to pick up on.
Yes.
And I think that I think in Nevada it might be one of the things that actually could have some resonance.
Well, you see Governor Sisolak standing at a supermarket talking about the price of bacon, and that's a real thing, right? Like,
Mark, it's good.
My parents, that's the kind of stuff that they're looking for, is somebody who acknowledges that things are hard. And it was hard all across the country, but it was especially hard here in Nevada. And there were people who couldn't pay their rent and couldn't pay their mortgage and were losing their homes and couldn't feed themselves. That's a very real thing. We have a food pantry right here in our parking lot at the office. And every day the line is out onto Eastern. And that is still happening to this day. People are still suffering in Nevada. And I'm sorry, I am not going to sit back and allow somebody like Joe Lombardo, who doesn't understand what it's like to not be able to pay your mortgage, is being bankrolled by a literal slumlord. And he's, who's been evicting people during this pandemic. It's just, those are the type of people funding these campaigns, and it's unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Is that breaking through? Do you feel, obviously we don't see the ads here. I mean, I have an app where I can watch television. Yeah, where I can watch TV all over the country. And last year in 2020, I was like, during football games, I would switch around and watch ads in Iowa or Georgia or somewhere because I was a nerd. But look, what are the ads? What are we seeing out there in Nevada from the Republicans? Is it all, Joe Biden is the worst and Nancy Pelosi, or are they talking about the issues? What are Democrats running? What are we seeing here as far as, what are people in Nevada being bombarded with on both sides?
So a lot of scare tactics. We were just working on this today. Stephen Miller's PAC has 6-figure buy on radio, Spanish language, transphobic, really horrific messaging. And, we're getting, our canvassers or our volunteers are just hearing it on the radio and they're really upset by it. So just scare tactics, things like that, attacking Joe Biden and then connecting CCM to that. They're not really talking about any issues, just basically, I want power. But I feel like on the other side, I see from Stephen Horsford talking about fighting against price gouging for rent. I see Catherine Cortez Masto talking about our water and drought issues. I see Governor Sisolak talking about, funding all kids in Nevada's public schools now get free meals regardless of need. And that removes a lot of stigma from our kids who are living in poverty. And so I see Republicans just trying to scare everybody, and I see Democrats actually have a record to run on.
Mm-hmm. Annette, do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And the transphobia we've seen it in mail, we've seen it on TV, we're seeing it now in the radio. We're pushing back on it as well because it's unacceptable. But in addition to that, you're also seeing people running on prescription drugs. We know we have a huge senior population here who needs affordable healthcare, needs affordable medications. And so that's a big issue that people are talking about. Like we were talking about earlier, and Rick said too, the economy is huge here. So Dems are talking about what they've done through the Inflation Reduction Act and the Affordable Care Act and various other, things that they've worked on over the years. Infrastructure, right? That's going to have a huge impact on Nevadans. Mm-hmm. In the Inflation Reduction Act, like Laura said, Catherine Cortez Masto brought home a huge amount of money just to work on drought relief and make sure that we had the infrastructure to deal with the very real situation we're facing with water, because it's a crisis.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that we see them talking about on the ground. I will say Nevadans are being inundated with ads. There was a thing the other day that showed that we are the highest media market right now, where Nevadans are just being bombarded. I know people are probably sick of it at this point. I'm even a little bit sick of it.
12 more days. It's not over yet.
We're an important state, and people need to get out and vote, and people need to make their voices heard and, fill out their ballots, mail it in, or drop it off, or go vote in person. You have all the options in the world. We're starting to see a bunch of surrogates come through now. We have Bernie Sanders tomorrow. We have Elizabeth Warren next week. We have Deb Haaland next week. So there's a lot of important people coming through, and, Nevada is going to be and will continue to be a purple state and a swing state.
Don't forget Barack Obama's coming too.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy, he can't draw a crowd.
Who? Never heard of him. We have another audience question that just came in about hand counting ballots in Nye County. What is going on with that?
I will let Annette answer that because we sued Nye County. So I'll let Annette answer it.
Well, I didn't sue Nye County, so let me talk shit. So I'm just supportive of it.
You've come to the right place to talk shit.
Yes, we talk shit. Please.
So Nye County has started the slow and ridiculous process of hand counting. I don't know about you, but Nevadans are not known for our math skills. So they have started to tally up by hand those things. We're hearing of a plethora of problems, which you can imagine would come with hand counting. Is why they invented, machines and computers for these things. We were hearing yesterday, we had observers out there. They were threatening people at one point threatened someone with a gun. They weren't letting them take notes, tried to confiscate the notes from them. They had volunteers do this silly oath that doesn't do anything. They were having to go back and recount things because of human error multiple times. They were doing all kinds of shady things. It was, from what we've been told, it's one of the most ridiculous things that our observers have ever seen. And so it's going about as good as you could suspect it would go, because we should not be hand counting ballots. That's something that you leave to professional election folks, and you leave to election tabulation machines to do accurately.
So what's the recourse here? Obviously, they're doing this, and does the Secretary of State's office have to step in at some point? Like, what's the trigger where somebody goes, okay, enough with this?
So the Secretary of State's office did step in at the very beginning and put some rules in place of what they could and couldn't do. Hopefully, they will step in more, especially with some of the egregious problems that are coming out of Nye County. We also had the ACLU do a fabulous job, along with Plan and some of our other partners, suing Nye County to get them, because they also wanted to read aloud the people's names who were voting and also the results, and do that on a live stream so that everybody knew who people were voting for, which I don't know about you, but that's not the way we do elections in this country.
Right.
I guess they missed that tiny constitutional provision, but
weird, right? They seem to understand the gun one, but they don't understand the voting one. And so now that went all the way up to the Nevada Supreme Court. The Nevada Supreme Court put a stop to that and said, no, you cannot do that. So the ACLU and our partners won in court on that. But, we're going to keep holding them accountable and holding their feet to the fire. Elko County tried similar shenanigans. That was struck down pretty quickly. But we are seeing some of the smaller counties try some of this. And so we're going to keep at every turn, we will keep, holding them accountable.
Well, for those of us who aren't as familiar with all the counties outside of Las Vegas, what part of the state is Nye County in? And
if you look at a map, obviously Clark County is the entire southern. Actually, here I'll show you on my shirt.
I didn't know where that was going right away.
So funny. It's like right here. That's where Nye County is.
There we go.
I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to lift up my shirt, but it's right above.
We only do that after 11.
Yeah, that's on the late night show.
After dark. Yeah.
But honestly, it's right above Clark County. So Nye County is a large county right above Clark County. There are 17 counties in the state of Nevada. The two biggest counties being Washoe County, where Sparks and Reno are. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously in northern Nevada. And then in southern Nevada, it's Clark County. So Nye County is right above us.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Nye is the infamous county that elected an assemblyman who was a brothel owner who died.
Yes. The Bunny Ranch guy, right?
Dennis, what's his name? Yeah.
Dennis Hoff.
And he still won. So that's Nye County.
Right. Is that the county you drive through to get to the Grand Canyon, up there, or is it
no?
To get to the,
no, that's where you go up to the National Test Range.
Oh, okay.
Or Death Valley, you can go up there. Yeah, Death Valley.
Well, this is fantastic, because I think that people need to know what's happening on the ground out there, and that there are levers of power and guardrails that are stopping it. But at the same time, there's a lot of shenanigans going on. And this is just one state. Rick and I have been talking about this a lot over the last few months about how, examples of where all of these things are going on. And if there aren't people paying attention to it, they can get away with it. And it's really, really encouraging to see you guys on the ground and your groups paying attention, taking action, and making sure that Nevadans have free and fair elections, and that, trying to push back against these crazies trying to do things that would endanger not only our democracy, but also the folks in your home state. As we close, I would like for both of you, unless Rick, you have another question, but I wanted to give them an opportunity to talk about how people can get involved if they want to out there in Nevada.
How can they reach you? How can they follow you on the social medias?
Yeah, so I have next to my name, Plan Action NV. You can also go to planaction.org and you can find where to vote, how to vote, or just signing up with our organization to volunteer. We're launching canvases every day up until the election, and we definitely could use the help of anyone who's ready to get out there and win this.
We want to thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. And
well, Rick, you got to let Annette go. See, Annette didn't get a chance to plug her group.
He wants to go to sleep.
Go on.
Listen. And for those of you who want to get involved with Battleborn Progress, again, it's in my name at Battleborn Prog. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook. We are doing a lot of election protection work right now across the state. So if you want to sign up for shifts with us to do election protection, whether it's going down and supporting our election workers and viewing the voting process or the tabulation process here in Clark County, you can do that. Or signing up to be poll workers, poll monitors, and going out to the actual in-person voting locations across the state. We're doing all of that right now with many of our partners. So just get in touch with us on that. We also have a nonpartisan voter guide. It's www.votesmartnv.org. And we have a ballot guide, which is www.nevadaballotguide.com. So it's all on our social media, but we definitely need you to get involved. And if you're here in Nevada and you haven't gone and voted yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Please, please, please go vote.
Absolutely.
Vote,
a couple of key dates for you guys out there in Nevada. You can still register in person until Election Day on November 4th. Early voting has already begun. It goes on until November 4th. And otherwise, November 8th, folks, that is the last day you can vote. Make a plan, and make sure you vote down ballot. Laura, Annette, thank you guys so much for everything
Laura.
you're
Thanks,
doing.
Annette. Great to see you guys.
And thank you, everybody, for watching our Nevada Town Hall. Make sure you guys go out there and vote and volunteer. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you for having
Good
us.
night.
Are we